Is UFC 311 in trouble of being relocated out of Los Angeles? Let's talk about it. We are back. It's me, Jesse Rowe with Inside Fighting. This is fight season, and I'm rolling solo today. Going to do a little Friday impromptu episode to sort of talk about a potentially developing story here with UFC 311. Obviously, for those who have been living under a rock, there are some pretty devastating fires that have been scattered throughout Los Angeles, just completely devastating the city. And obviously, UFC 311 is right around the corner next weekend on January 18th. And right in the midst of all of this chaos where there's just fires popping up left and right, smoke covering the city. And now there's a report from Ariel Helwani that apparently the UFC is considering other options in the event that they have to relocate the fight. So let's take a look at it here. So Ariel put out a tweet earlier today, says, and by the way, if you're watching, make sure you guys like and subscribe and comment. That's the best way you guys could help us. This episode is brought to you by DraftKings. Use promo code Inside Fighting to get in on all the action of our deals that we've got going on right now. But yeah, so this is the tweet from Ariel Helwani that he put out earlier today. He said, UFC has had talks about the status of UFC 311 next weekend, I'm told. UFC 311 is currently slated for the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California. Obviously, that region is facing a devastating wildfire crisis at the moment. And the NFL announced yesterday that they are moving the Rams versus Vikings playoff game scheduled for Monday at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood to Glendale, Arizona. And again, this is just 5 days away from UFC, 4 days away from UFC 311. And then, obviously just 2 days away from all like the media stuff that's going to be going on for UFC 311. So as of right now, continuing the tweet, as of right now, 311 is staying at the Intuit. The hope is it remains there, but they are monitoring and ready to move the card if need be. No talks of delaying the card. Obviously, that call needs to happen soon. The event is just 8 days away. And then this is the kicker. Las Vegas would be the front runner because it's worth noting that T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas is not booked for anything next Saturday, January 18th. And yeah. So just full disclosure, I am here in Los Angeles. I've, been living in this chaos for the past 5 days. It's truly just a hellscape outside. There's smoke everywhere. We have started to turn a corner. The Palisades fire, which was obviously the biggest one, was at 0% containment as of yesterday. Over the past 24 hours, it's gone up to 8% containment. So that's where we're at right now. As I record this, it might be better by the time you see this. But so that's good news. The problem right now that we're having is air quality, and you can take a look at this. I mean, there's just smoke everywhere in LA, and I walk outside, I have to wear a mask. I'm not going to get into the mask debate here, but just because there's just toxic fumes going around, because it's not just firewood that's burning out there. There's there's metal, there's gas, there's all sorts of nauseous toxic fumes going around in the air, and it's not good to breathe. It's not healthy to breathe in. And not to mention, there's also like fires popping up every day. Just yesterday, there was a fire. The day before, there was a couple of fires that popped up. And earlier today, there was another fire that popped up out in the north side of Los Angeles. They put that one out pretty quickly. But the point is that these fires keep popping up. And as of right now, seems like we're turning a corner. But the problem is next week, I'm sorry, I'm doing a full-on weather report for you guys here, but next week there is supposed to be a pickup in the Santa Ana winds, which is what caused all of this, because the winds were like 75 to 100 miles an hour in the most affected areas. And like when power lines get blown down and then sparks start flying around, and then a fire starts, those embers can carry for like up to 3 miles. So that's how these fires just really spread so quickly. And so if the winds pick up, we're supposed to see like 30 to 40 mile an hour winds. That could be a problem. That could potentially mean that like other fires pop up over the next week. So if that's the case, it's tough to tell whether the UFC would want to go through with this. Ignore the fact that there could be a potential fire next to the Intuit Dome, But the fact that there would just be smoke essentially covering the city, and then you have fans standing up outside waiting to get into the event, and they're breathing in all this toxic fume and smoke and all that bad stuff. Here's this is from the Watch Duty app. If you're in Los Angeles, by the way, I hope you guys are safe. If you need to monitor the fires, I recommend the Watch Duty app. That's how I've been monitoring it here. So if you look over here, at the bottom right of this map, you can see Inglewood and Hawthorne. Inglewood is where the Intuit Dome is. So this is going to be like the first big UFC fight, big fight at this new arena that's been built for the Clippers, after the Los Angeles Clippers. And then up to the top left, you see the Palisades fire. So the edge of the evacuation zone is about like 13 miles from Inglewood. The problem is you can also see that Inglewood is in that like pink zone, which is basically like a caution zone, like to be on alert. And it's also where like smoke is, potentially you're going to be getting some smoke inhalation in the process. So this is the closest fire. Now it could be that this fire dissipates over the next week, and then by the time the fight comes around, Inglewood's looking pretty good. The air is looking pretty clear. But like I mentioned, if any more fires pop up, the city is just going to continue to have smoke in it. And I don't know if the UFC wants to deal with that, because as we mentioned, in Inglewood is where the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams play. They canceled their game, or sorry, they relocated their game, their playoff game this week on Monday. They're moving it to Arizona, as mentioned by the Helwani tweet. So if they're moving it out of town just like a couple of days before the UFC has to be in town to do all of their media day obligations and their press conferences and all that stuff, there is a chance here. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a chance that they're going to have to relocate. I mean, schools are out right now. The Los Angeles Kings canceled their game. The Los Angeles Lakers canceled their game. The real issue is going to be air quality. And if air quality has not cleared up in Inglewood by the time this fight comes around, just be prepared. There's a chance that UFC is going to move this fight to Las Vegas, which would be crazy, but not the first time the UFC has had to think on their toes and be proactive and be problem solvers. So they are prepared. They're prepared for a potential relocation. And let me know what you guys think. If you think that this fight, this card's going to go through in Los Angeles, or if you think they're going to relocate, because it kind of sucks for Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, building this arena out there in Inglewood. It's the brand new state-of-the-art arena. They get really a big boost from hosting this UFC event. It's the first big fight put on at this new place, and then these crazy fires are going on, and it's just bad timing. And also, there's a possible arsonist going around Los Angeles, and if that's the case, that's no fun either. So yeah, we will be staying tuned on that. We'll keep you guys updated. And if any changes happen, hey, book your tickets to Las Vegas. Go make a weekend out of it. We're going to move on. Another Ariel Helwani news story broke. Alex Pereira fighting Magomed Ankalaev officially. We're going to get into it, but first, here is a message from our friends over at DraftKings. The NFL season is winding down, unfortunately, but the NFL wildcard games and the playoffs are coming up, and Inside Fighting, we're happy to say, has partnered up with DraftKings, who is an official partner of the NFL. And right now, if you're a new DraftKings customer, you can go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, bet $5, you'll receive $200 of bonus bets if you use our promo code Inside Fighting at sign up. You can use those bonus bets on same game parlays, or if sports betting is not yet available in your state, do not worry about it. Just go play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports and get in on the action there. Again, if you're a new DraftKings customer, go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, bet $5, you'll receive $200 of bonus bets if you use our promo code Inside Fighting at sign up. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. The crown is yours. That's what's up. Shout out DraftKings for sponsoring this video, for always taking care of us. Make sure you guys utilize those bonus bets, especially with these NFL games coming up. There's a lot of good ones. As I mentioned, the game here in LA is being relocated. It's a lot of good action to get in on. So make sure you guys are taking advantage of that. That's another way that you guys can help us out. Magomed Ankalaev has been waiting for this moment. Now, if this reporting is to be believed, according to Ariel Helwani, Magomed Ankalaev will get the next light heavyweight title shot versus current champion Alex Pereira. There's been a narrative sort of building in certain factions of MMA social media that Alex Pereira has been ducking Magomed Ankalaev. There are other factions that want Pereira to take on bigger fights, potentially the John Jones fight, Tom Aspinall fight, potentially a Khalil Roundtree rematch even, because that fight was a banger. Well, according to Ariel Helwani, it will be Magomed Ankalaev next. Obviously, Ankalaev fought Jan Blachowicz for the title. I think it was UFC 282 off the top of my head. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, maybe 283, but that fight ended in a draw. And it seems like since then, Ankalaev has really had a hard time getting back to the title fight, even though he is, clearly the number one contender in this division. Well, it seems like if Ariel's reporting is to be believed, it seems like he will get the next shot. And I think that this is the fight that needs to happen for Alex Pereira to really take that next step and really test his legacy against bigger and better things. Like, if you want to see Alex Pereira fight at heavyweight, challenge either Tom Aspinall or John Jones, well, then he has to get through Ankalaev first. That's the way I view it, because then I think that he's essentially cleared out his division, beating Jan, beating Geary, beating Jamal Hill, beating Roundtree, and then beating Ankalaev. I think that sort of is it clears him up for taking that next step, going for double champ status, and then truly going for like all-time legacy stuff. Because Ankalaev is kind of like, I don't want to call him the boogeyman of the division, but he's the guy that if people believe has the tools to beat Pereira on this, incredible run that he's been on lately. So I am excited for this fight. I don't know how I view it yet. It really depends on what Ankalaev actually wants to do, because he's been claiming for a while that he wants to stand and bang, that he wants to make this a kickboxing match with Alex Pereira, which every fighter seems to say. Yuri said it, Jamal Hill did it. See how that turned out. Khalil Roundtree said it. They had like a sort of unofficial no takedown rule in their fight. And you see what happened to Khalil Roundtree. He's going to have scars on his face for the rest of his life. I have a feeling Ankalaev will not hold true to the no takedown rule. I have a feeling he will implement some wrestling into this matchup, implement some takedowns, because that clearly seems like that's the way to beat Alex Pereira. But from everything that I've read, Pereira has worked really hard on his takedown defense, on his jiu-jitsu, on his wrestling, and he's just putting in the work every single day. So I really want to see it get tested, and this is the perfect opponent to do so. Now the question is, does Ankalaev deserve this title fight? I mean, in his last fight against Rakic, Alexander Rakic, it was not a very exciting fight. It was kind of a boring decision win, even though it was a good performance by Ankalaev. And then also coming off of knocking out Johnny Walker, but with the first fight ending in a no contest. I do think he is worthy of this opportunity, but I was hoping for a more definitive finish or a more definitive performance against Rakic, just to sort of really hammer it home. But if this is true, if this is the next opponent and Pereira is accepting the fight, I'm happy to see it, because I do want to see Pereira. I want to see him win, because I do think there is a path for victory for him here, and because I want to see him get tested for all-time legacy stuff. Because there's a chance that if he beats Ankalaev and then he goes on to fight John Jones or Tom Aspinall and becomes heavyweight champion, we're not just talking about him being one of the greatest of all time. We're talking about him potentially being the GOAT. It might sound crazy, but just keep that in mind. He's already one of the combat sports GOATs of all time. So this would just really drive it home for him. All right, let's talk about this. This is the fight that nobody asked for. Apparently, Conor McGregor and KSI are reportedly discussing a fight. Now, this is going to be bizarre for some of you, but there was some news put out that Conor and KSI were. Let's go back. Let's step back. Originally, it was supposed to be Conor McGregor versus Logan Paul. There were reports that Conor and Logan were in talks for a boxing match as part of a tourism India campaign, an Indian tourism campaign. Basically, I think it's called Visit India. And it was going to be for $250 million each, sponsored by the Indian royal family. And it's an exhibition match. Apparently it's not going to go on either fighter's professional record from my understanding, but this is the fight that was in talks, and both fighters seemingly confirmed that this was going to happen. Obviously, we haven't seen Conor since he broke his leg against Dustin Poirier. He was supposed to fight Michael Chandler, and now here we are talking about an influencer boxing match for mega bucks. The question is, what role does the UFC have in this? How would they allow it, considering Conor is still under contract? I think he still has 2 fights left on his deal. So for him to take this fight, the UFC would likely have to be involved, and they have to take a good chunk of that money. Otherwise, they wouldn't agree to do it. And it makes sense for Conor to want to do it, because for him to step back into the octagon, he's not going to get paid nearly the amount of money that he'd be getting paid with this type of fight. $250 million is like unheard of money. That's more than what Usyk and Fury just got paid to go fight for Turk al-Sheikh over there in Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is big boy stuff. But now fast forward, and there's all of a sudden a report that KSI is in the mix, and KSI himself essentially confirms it, saying that it's not a rumor, that this is happening. And then Conor McGregor retweeted that post. Now, look, I know that this is something that Conor does. That at this point, we can't take anything that he says seriously in this regard. And I think that that's very possibly what is happening here, that he is not going to be actually fighting KSI, because the reasoning for why Logan Paul supposedly is out of the picture now is because Logan wants to focus more on his wrestling career, and that he's doesn't have the time for the fight, which I'm calling bullshit. Because if you're telling me that not only are you getting paid $250 million, but you get a chance to fight an all-time legend, you fought Floyd Mayweather, then you get to fight Conor McGregor, that's just an opportunity that I don't think Logan would pass up for the social media aspect of it alone, from the promotional aspect of it alone, let alone the money aspect. What it could do for him as a brand and how it could boost him up would be just, you can't put a number on it. And I also saw some reports that like there could be potentially be a rematch in WWE between Conor and Logan, which would be interesting, because obviously UFC is under the TKO umbrella now, along with WWE. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But is this a fight that you guys are interested in? Because I do not want to see this. I hope this never happens. And for Logan to pass up this fight, give it to his buddy KSI. I'm pretty sure he wants to have bragging rights over his brother Jake, because I know Jake has been lobbying for the Conor McGregor fight forever. So for him to just give up on the fight and let his buddy have it, rather than getting bragging rights over his little brother, seems like malpractice to me. Because that would piss Jake off more than anything else in the world. Because those guys have this weird relationship where they really want to one-up each other in terms of who gets the better opponent. Like Logan and him were arguing on a podcast once about how Jake sniped the Nate Diaz fight away from Logan. And so they've had this whole back and forth forever. And so I think the fact that Logan could actually get the Conor McGregor fight, he would never pass up on it just because he wants to focus on his WWE career. It just wouldn't happen. I'm not buying it. All right, we're going to sort of do rapid fire here through the last 2 topics. This one's not good for the PFL. PFL reportedly is reducing their regular season prize money from $1 million to $500,000, meaning that the winner of the PFL regular season in the past has won the $1 million check. Dakota Ditcheva just won it. Obviously, Larissa Pacheco has won it. Kayla Harrison has won it. And now they're reducing it to $500,000. And the optics of that are self-explanatory, but obviously not good. Not a good look. The PFL has obviously had trouble getting money. Ask Dana White, he'll tell you all about it, but they've had to, reach out to the Saudis to get as an investor, and they've developed their their Super Fights pay-per-view division, which was spearheaded by the Francis Ngannou versus Renan Ferreira fight. And if you look at the crowd of that fight, there were barely any people there. They could, they couldn't do it in a normal arena. Didn't sell a lot of pay-per-views, if at all. And the fact that they're making this sort of a significant cut, I mean, literally cutting it in half, when their whole business model is fighter pay and how they are going to do things that they're pro fighter, it's just a bad look, and it just shows that it was never sustainable from the beginning for them to put that kind of money on the table for fighters that were not fully established brand names yet. That's not to say that it cannot work. That's not to say that this is the end, but it's simply not a good look. And it does appear like there could be some financial trouble on the horizon for the PFL. Am I overreacting? Let me know. Again, I'm open to admitting I'm wrong, but that certainly appears to be the optics of this situation. Last one of the day. This is my fighter of the week. Fighter to watch this weekend at UFC Vegas 101. Austin Bashi. He's making his UFC debut. He is the top prospect in North America. I believe he's the number 9 ranked American fighter in North America, and he's never set foot in a UFC octagon other than Dana White's Contender Series. So he's 13-0 professionally. He's on a 15-fight win streak dating back to his amateur days. This dude's an absolute beast. We've interviewed him a few times before, so go check out some of our interviews with Austin. He's a good kid. He's just laser focused. He's not a big trash talker. He's not a huge personality. He's just like dead set on being a champion, and he's got all the confidence in the world. His Dana White's Contender Series performance was amazing. He got a second round submission choke, which impressed the boss. And yeah, he actually, interestingly enough, 2 years ago, he was offered a spot on Dana White's Contender Series, but he turned it down when he was 20, 21 years old because he wanted to focus on getting more experience. He's very self-aware. A lot of people wouldn't have passed up that opportunity. He passed it up. He got some more fights in, became champion, really focused on his craft and like rounding out his game, working on his striking, his grappling, his wrestling, his jiu-jitsu, everything, just really rounding out his game. He's 23 years old. He's got a lot of hype behind him, and he's fighting Christian Rodriguez, who actually stopped or slowed down Raul Rosas Jr.'s hype train, giving Raul Rosas Jr. his first loss. So there are some parallels here. So it's a big test. He is a favorite, but I'm Austin Bashi all day. I'm really rooting for this kid. I have a rooting interest in this guy's career. So good luck this weekend, Austin. And yeah. That has been this weekend's episode of Fight Season. Again, thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring the video. And if you're in Los Angeles, stay safe out there. Make sure you guys are, stocked up, prepared, ready to go if you need to. But that being said, UFC 311, is it going down in Los Angeles? Are they moving it? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.